Hello everyone, welcome to the review series. Today we're discussing a very hot topic, and that's the escalation of conflict between Iran and Israel. So overnight, Israel attacked Iran with precision strikes across its different cities and nuclear facilities. So by morning, we got to know that most of Iran's military generals and commanders, including the Revolutionary Guards, has been killed by precision strikes inside their residential apartments in Tehran. This is Israel's most riskiest operation ever done in the Middle East. And interestingly, from what we know and what was confirmed later, is that the strikes that happened first, it was initiated by Mossad's agents inside Iran, where they infiltrated months before. They even smuggled missiles and then reassembled them in open space and aimed at their targets, including drone attacks as well. So we're going to discuss this and how it escalated that quickly, what exactly happened. Rajab will give us a brief overview of what's the latest in the news, what we are hearing right now. Rajab?
Thank you, Qais. As you said, it has been a complex attack. Many sites have been attacked inside Iran, and these includes nuclear facilities, missile storages, missile launching pads. So overnight, according to Israeli media and the defense ministry, over 200 fighter jets flown into Iran airspace, and they have hit around 100 targets inside Iran. These targets, they are scattered across Iran in different provinces, and the main targets included nuclear sites, especially the Natanz nuclear sites, which is located just 250 kilometers outside Tehran, and other targets included missile storage, which also located in Natanz and also in other areas. They also targeted Iranian air defense systems, the radar system, which disabled the Iranian Air Force to respond. Also, they hit the missile launching pads in Hamadan and also in other areas. Despite these military sites, they have also targeted residential areas in Tehran. In these attacks, it seems that many Iranian commanders, top-ranking commanders, nuclear scientists, and people close to Ayatollah Khamenei, the supreme leader of Iran, have been killed. So far, reportedly, 6 nuclear scientists, also 6 top commanders have been killed. An hour ago, Reuters reported that around 20 mid-ranking commanders have also been killed in Israel attacks, who were reportedly gathering in a military base, planning an attack on Israel, based on what Reuters reported. So the situation is developing. So it's we see on the news, and people from inside Iran, they share videos, footages that shows the attacks are ongoing in some parts of the country.
Right.
For example, one user just posted footage an hour ago showing new strikes in Kermanshah in Iran. So the situation is unfolding.
Right.
From the Iranian side, they also launched or sent around 100,
Right.
but there are not footages from Israel that did these drones hit or were they intercepted. But we know that they responded early in the morning, but there are not much news about Iranian strikes. So all the news, all the focuses on how Israel struck Iran at its nuclear sites and missile sites in different parts of the country.
Yeah, it happened very quickly, actually. So interestingly, yesterday there was a report that came from the watchdog on the atomic, I think it was International Atomic Energy. What is it called exactly? But I'm not sure. But read it on BBC that said Iran has actually violated its obligation of uranium enrichment, which means, so if you read like within the lines, it actually means that Iran is heading on making nuclear weapons. But Iran time and time again, they rejected that. They said, no, we're not making nuclear weapons. We have the right for nuclear energy, which means nuclear energy is the most less costly, it produce more energy, and it's also environment friendly in most places. And even that is a consideration among most European countries right now. They want to use more of nuclear energy. So that was the main argument of Iran in the beginning. But time and time again, even years before, Israeli intelligence, American intelligence, they said, no, actually, Iran is trying to enrich uranium in order to build nuclear weapons. So the moment that report came in, after a few hours, it was, I think, early hours of Friday, June 13th, at least in the European time, that we saw the news of Israel striking Iran, and they immediately put out statements that it's both covert and overt operations. So covert, interestingly, they planned it beforehand, months ago, sending their own Mossad agents, which means Iran is actually infested with Mossad agents and spies. I think it's way more, the breach within the Iranian military government is way more stronger in terms of intelligence than people think. I mean, this is my opinion and analysis, that Israel have people inside Iranian military. They know exactly the next move. They know exactly the reason I'm saying this is because I saw footages of even the residential buildings, right? When the commanders killed or the scientists killed, they exactly knew in which room they were sleeping. So they struck them exactly there. So they did not strike like a building randomly. So they struck exactly their apartment, and they're in very densely populated areas in Tehran. Just hours ago, 2 hours ago, I geolocated one of the images I saw was a building partially collapsed. And the geolocation appears to be from central Iran. There's an area called Satarkhan, and that's like central downtown Iran. That means that, okay, you have Israel targeting your official scientists inside your capital, and you can't stop them anymore. But interestingly, why? Because you mentioned why Iran, okay, they said they launched 100 drones, but still they don't know whether they were intercepted or hit Israel. And that's exactly one of the cases that almost all of them were intercepted in Jordan before reaching Israel. Because Jordan is kind of located in a very interesting geopolitics between Israel and the rest of Middle East, because Israel, it's its neighbor. It can't just let those drones go away because it has good relations. It has recognized Israel as a state. But also when those projectiles crossing Jordan, actually violating Jordan's airspace in a way. So they hit most of them there. And there was another thing about the way Israel attacked. The strategy they took was exactly as they did on Hezbollah. And because they did not give chance to Hezbollah to retaliate quickly. They knew, they already planned it, that this is the same strategy they've done it on Iran, killing top commanders, and at the same time, simultaneously, all of them together. It's not like we should do this first and then do this first and then all of them together. One squadron of fighter jets went to hit their targets. The other drone were launched to hit another target. And the missiles that Israel directly hit were launched on another target. So simultaneously, they hit top commanders, scientists, at the same time where is potential sites where Iran might use to strike back, including missile sites. So that's how they did it. Now, Iran cannot respond that quickly because first they have to assess their damages, right? How much damage did they have damages from the Israeli side? And then compared to 2014 when Iran launched its ballistic missile attack on Israel, which was a big thing, right? That time it was very calculated by Iran, and I think it was communicated with the US as well, saying, okay, come on, we've been attacked by Israel so many times. It's our, like honor somehow, like we have to respond back. And the air base that Iran struck and in Jerusalem and as well as near Tel Aviv were places that were already emptied. It was already communicated, we're going to strike you. But that was a diplomatic exchange or like military exchange and in a way to balance the escalations, right? But this time, this is if Iran responds, if it calculates it wouldn't be that much calculated. They won't care anymore about, okay, whether it would cause civilian harms. But I guess
Yes,
it will
yeah.
be like just hitting Israel no matter what, because it's an existential issue for the Islamic regime, right? And I don't think if they would survive out of this.
Yeah, as you said, it was very well calculated by Israel, and they basically wanted to sort of paralyze both the military wing as well as the nuclear section of the Islamic Republic. So
Yeah.
they have killed the the army chief of staff. They have killed the commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Corps. They have killed the top scientist of Iranian nuclear power plants. So it is a shock for the Islamic Republic because they have lost all their key elements who could save the government, who could manage things in such situations. And yeah, it has been a complex and well coordinated attacks. They have uh, uh, used bunker buster bombs in destroying missile storage in Natanz. The
Yeah.
Israeli Defense Ministry shared a 3D footage of the Natanz nuclear sites. So they knew they gathered all this intelligence and they knew how to hit each target to
Mhm.
to destroy what they want to destroy. So yeah, they used bunker busters bombs there, and they activated the radar system, the missile launching
Mhm.
pads. So it's now very difficult for the Iranian military to respond because their military advantage has been sort of disabled by
Yeah.
these attacks. Yeah, and as you said, the infiltration of Israel's secret service in Iran, it's sort of unbelievable because
Yeah.
they used the same tactics last year during the inauguration ceremony of the new president. They
Mhm.
did it this time as well. So they shared footage of the Mossad operatives who were working inside Iran on
Yeah.
Iranian soil on preparing these attacks. Yeah, but these attacks happens in a time that the talks between the United States and the Iranian government is ongoing. So the next round of talk was supposed to take place. So the attacks was anticipated because
Yeah.
Israeli officials they repeatedly said that they will attack, and the U.S. officials confirmed. Donald Trump called on U.S. citizens to leave Middle East or to find some place safe. But it wasn't expected to happen this soon.
Yeah.
And yeah, this was sort of the Islamic Republic, its military that was sort of taken by surprise by Israel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was in a way predicted actually will happen, but not, as you said, not this quickly and like a surprise one. Usually, when there are some messages sending to each country, or like US, okay, we have to evacuate our embassies, or usually that means, okay, you have a week at least. But that happened within 48 hours. Everything that happened within last 48 hours was an proper indication that, okay, the strikes are imminent. And I think everything was timely calculated as well, because Israel's, the way they attacked it was also very riskiest for their agents inside Iran. So they had a proper timeline, proper timing of exactly at what time they were ready to strike back, because in the covert operations you observe every target's movement, timing, their schedules, so you prepare your attack based on their schedule. So they knew at what time each commander goes to sleep in which bedroom. So that's the thing. And they knew exactly at this night, most of them will be at their home. Why? Because it was Thursday's evening. The next day was Friday. Friday is a holiday, right? In Iran. So you see, these sort of covert operations, intelligence operations are very important in a way. But of course, there are other elements to it. And a lot of people are actually making fun of Trump in a way, saying, oh, you, and the group, the MAGA group that they had of voting him, saying, oh, you said you're the president of peace. But now, actually, under your nose, Israel is going to conduct some operation, very massive, and you can't do anything about it. And just, he later also posted on his Truth social saying, well, we give Iran chance again and again and again, but this is the final warning. Basically, he said, okay, if Iran doesn't make a deal, there will be nothing left to them. So clearly that says, okay, it was a green light from the US, though they may not publicly acknowledge it, but that was the thing. And I believe also the negotiations were all a distraction because they also Israel killed the head of the nuclear negotiation leader, Ali Shamkhani, I believe. So he was killed. And of course, if he is killed, if the nuclear facilities are under attack, what are you dealing with? There's no deal then. Of course, there will be no talks. What are you talking if Iran already loses all of its nuclear facilities and commanders? So in Trump and say, okay, you have to make a deal. Okay, you don't give them, okay, they may be a deal of survival at the end. Saying, okay, well, okay, we don't have these things. All of us are dying, so it will be an existential one. But I don't think Iran would do that, because now Iran is fighting its existential battle, at least the regime. I mean, the circle of Khamenei is shrank a lot. He is being the target. He is the target. Khamenei is the target of Israelis, but he's protected in a high facility. I'm not sure, like the way one of the things that to maneuver in most of these operations to keep high profile alive is not to keep them in one place. That's one of the tactics I believe they may be employing, because what happened with Nasrullah, Hezbollah's leader. He was just hiding in one place. If Iran learned from that, I'm sure Khamenei is not staying in one place for an hour or two. He may be like on the move, or I don't know, they may have some secret bunkers to move around.
Yes, yes, of course, yeah. The fact that the United States didn't stop Israel from conducting these attacks, it makes sense to argue that Washington or President Trump basically gave the red light to Israel that you can do it
Yeah, the green
because
light, yeah.
the green light, yeah, because they knew it, and that's why they asked their citizens to leave the Middle East, and yeah, this talks about Iran's nuclear power, nuclear program. It leads to nowhere. So now the talks, it can be imagined that they resume the talks because their nuclear power plants have been hit, they have been attacked, and the way that Israel has operated this time has basically disarmed the Islamic Republic, the regime, and it also sort of, in a larger picture, one can argue that Khamenei and his circle has been weakened. They have lost their instinct compared to 2 years ago, to 3 years ago, compared to 1 year ago,
Yeah.
because their hands have been cut off from the Middle East. They have lost their proxy. They have lost Hezbollah. They have lost in Syria. So now they don't have this long arm to fight their fight for them.
Mm-mm.
It's now on their soil. And as you said, they have lost their top commander, their top scientists in these attacks. So now they are in a very vulnerable position.
Yeah.
And as Israel view Iran or the Islamic regime as an existential threat, as Netanyahu also said before the attack.
Yeah.
So they will continue these attacks on Iran for a week or so. So we will probably see more of such attacks on Iranian soil and maybe from the Iranian parts as well.
Yeah.
Like an hour ago, the Iranian president, he addressed the nation and he also promised that there will be retaliations against Israel. So in the coming hours and days, we will see how the situations unfold, what will be the new developments. So at the moment, it's very difficult to predict anything, but what we can see is that these attacks and these clashes, they will continue for at least momentarily, and then we will see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. I think also Iran has a strength among all of its neighbors, and including, especially in the Middle East. Iran has the largest military personnel, almost 1 million registered one, and around 600,000 active military personnel. However, the way Israel attacked was not on their personnel or their soldiers, but rather on their air defense system, on their missiles, on their air force, because, of course, these two countries can't go to war with foot soldiers because there are other countries between them, so they're not able to send foot soldiers. So that's why the only way Iran could respond quickly could have a stronger hand was to have its air defense missile, especially in ballistic missiles that Iran was keep producing, right? So now that that is degraded, I don't think even the 600,000 military personnel would be useful in such a warfare when everything is from air, when everything is overt and covert. While on the Israeli side, they're less in numbers, but they have high superiority in terms of air force, in terms of intelligence, and in terms of military hardware and gadgets that they have. So that gives them that strength to strike Iran in a way that it was unimaginable. But even that, I guess, if it comes to the situation that Iran, especially because the main order comes from Khamenei, if he knows that he's going to die, then he's gonna take the whole country with him. That's the thing, meaning that he's going to use every last bit of maybe sleeper agents they have across Europe. Because today, just 2 hours ago, there was a statement from the German Israeli embassy in Germany. So Israel is closing its embassy in Germany just because of the threats they're facing even in the European capitals. Merz, the chancellor of Germany, said we will have extra security in Jewish sites as well as in Israeli sites. So that says that it's not just about two countries fighting there, but also Iran might resort to activating its sleeper agents across different countries, which they have. They might kill their people who have maybe spoken against them. But after all, I guess this is a major conflict that will have way more consequences for the whole region, for the whole country. Let's say even when it comes to refugees of Afghanistan inside Iran, which are in millions. I read a very good post by an Afghan journalist saying, okay, refugees and Iran must be very cautious of staying away from military sites, places that might be potential target. And the reason was that Iran cannot defend itself right now. How would it able be to defend refugees? So that's another element to it as well, because even Afghanistan is affected in a way, or most of its neighboring countries. But I think a destabilized Iran is not good for the region as well. It will give rise to a lot of more militant movements, and the consequences of that is far beyond imaginable.
Yes, of course. War between Israel and Iran, which has started, it means destabilizing the entire region, the entire Middle East and Afghanistan, Pakistan. We don't have any longer that conventional warfare that foot soldiers fight. So it's war from far distances. It's a war of missiles, a war of drones. So on the other hand, we have also several U.S. military bases in the region in Middle East, and those military bases are at a range that Iranian missiles can hit. If another conflict break out between Iran and the U.S., then it destabilizes the entire Middle East and the entire region. It's also a question of the nuclear radioactive materials radiation.
Yeah.
Because Natanz, it's one of the biggest and most complex nuclear sites of Iran, and they have hit it hard. They have hit with bunker buster bombs. So at the moment, there are no news about radioactive materials radiations, but there is a possibility that the entire region will be affected, the entire ecosystem, because Afghanistan, especially west of Afghanistan, is close to Iran, to that Natanz area. Also earlier, like a week or 2 weeks ago, Qatari officials, they also said that they expressed their concern that targeting Iranian's nuclear site would contaminate the drinking water in the entire Middle East. So it's the nuclear aspects and the radiation aspect is much more dangerous to the entire region compared to the military confrontations, because radioactive, it's something that once it's out, then it destroys lives, and it's very difficult to control. And in Iran now, because of this chaos that has emerged as a result of the airstrikes, the Iranian officials, they also on TV told today that they do not know about the About the level of the damage in Natanz nuclear sites, they are assessing it, but it seems that they are in a disarray because they have lost their scientists. They have been hit in several areas. So it takes time that they assess the level of the damage and whether there will be radioactive radiation or not.
Yeah. And totaling around 100 people have died as well so far, and there are civilians among them, including children. But I think the number of casualties are significantly rising. But also with, of course, one of the major consequences of this conflict is the spread of the nuclear waste and the contamination of the air and the soil and the water. That's one of the environmental consequences, let alone the other consequences that would follow, right? If there's more escalations, of course, a lot of Iranian would resort to leaving their country, right? So there will be another migration flow to Europe, and there will be other issues within the region as well. But let's hope that there will be a de-escalation of the situation, and the story is still developing. So we will be able to continue a discussion maybe next week and see how this situation unfolds. And currently, we record this session at a moment that the escalation just started less than 24 hours ago. But we hope and we pray that no civilian is harmed and that there's a de-escalation in the situation and both countries come to an agreement very soon.